So I phoned her back, and the first thing she said was, there's been a bloke hanging around outside the house earlier, and don't get cross with me, but I called the police. I was like, why would I get cross with you? I said, you've done the right thing. I said, what was he doing? She said, well, he was kicking and punching our car. And when I opened the window, tell him to get lost, she said, he was talking about kids. She said, but I couldn't really understand him, what he was saying. So she said, I just phoned the police and they came. She said, but they were quite rude to me. She said, they kept saying, what's he got to do with you? Why is he talking about your kids? She said, well, it's partly why I'm worried. He hasn't got anything to do with my kids. So the police had gone, but they hadn't come back to her to let her know what had happened. And she said, I'm a little bit worried because I can hear banging again. I'm worried that he's come back. He's got the hump because I phoned the police on him and he's going to, have a go at me or something. So I said, all right, look, phone the police, see what they did. So she said, all right. So she's gone onto the other phone, phoned the police, come back to me. She said, they don't really give a shit. They've let him go. So she said, I'm really worried now. I said, well, look, don't worry, don't panic. Only you. She said, there was a big loud bang. I said, no, didn't hear anything. She said, all right, I'm just going to go and check what it was. And then next thing you know, she screamed there was someone in the house. Instantly, I think I screamed, and I leapt out of bed because I heard Nikki actually say, what do you want? Get out of my house. So I knew someone was in there. There's someone in there. And I could hear Nikki on the phone, some screams and some get away, that kind of stuff. Someone's attacking my wife. But as the call went on, I started to lose control a little bit because they weren't listening to me and I could hear what was going on the other line, which was horrendous. It's gone completely quiet on the line. And then it just suddenly dawned on me that obviously the kids are in there. There were so many thoughts going through my mind at that time. I think deep down I knew something really awful had happened because of the nature of the screams that were on the phone. I kind of assumed that Nikki was probably dead, and I thought the kids were probably next. They were just shaking, and I was trying to talk to Nick on the phone, and then all of a sudden I heard the children crying on the phone. I knew they were alive at least, but then I could hear them saying to Mummy, wake up, and one of the kids was saying, why has this happened to our family? And they were only 6 and 3. So something, for them to be sitting there or whatever they were doing when something awful had happened, and I knew your children are fine. Your children are absolutely fine. They're unharmed. She said, I'm sorry, Mr. Cross, to tell you your wife has died. And I just fell onto this copper, this big bloke, and he was just hugging me and I was just sobbing my heart out. And I knew, but you need that final confirmation before it actually starts to sink in or, hits home that what's gone on.